Today I'm going to be watching this video. It's called Summer in Australia. Because like I always see videos on social media and things about Australian summer. Some places obviously can get extremely hot and like crazy weather and things like that. Tell me what your experience is in your area of Australia, your region, your city. What's summer in Australia like? What's the most extreme weather you've ever experienced? But yeah, let's watch this one and we can see how it is.
As most of you may know, I recently made a video about what makes Australia so dangerous. But there was one thing that I left out on purpose, and that was the weather. Now the weather in Australia is unpredictable at the best of times, and that's especially true when it comes to Melbourne. Melbourne is the only place in the entire world where it can be 4 degrees and rainy, but then by the end of the day, you're bright red and sunburnt. But I'm not here today to talk about Melbourne's weather, because today's video is about the annually recurring 3-month period where there's snow, bushfires and floods all at the exact same time.
That doesn't happen in many
summer
places
in Australia. From what I've heard, this year is gonna be a hot one. In case you didn't already know, there's a big hole in the ozone layer right above Australia. This massive hole in the ozone layer was likely caused by all the methane released from post-zinger box farts. And that means that more UV rays get in from the sun, making it a lot hotter. But from what I've heard, this year we're gonna be getting 2 for the price of 1. And that second thing is something called an El Nino. Now I'll admit, I'm an expert at many different things, but weather is not one of my specialties. But there is one thing that I have learnt over all these years, and that is, if something's name is in Spanish, you know it's gonna be hot. So in today's video, I'll be highlighting everything that you need to look out for in the Australian summer, such as what you'll need, what to avoid, and what preventative Australian summer, such as what you'll
an esky on wheels, like on some sort of quad scooter type thing. That's a genius invention. Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Need, what to avoid, and what preventative measures that you might need to take. Anyway, that's enough waffle, let's get into it. First up, we'll start by identifying some potential hazards and things that you need to avoid. First of which is hot seatbelt buckles. Now for any non-Australians watching, you may be thinking there's no way that a device like this that's whole purpose is to keep you safe can pose any sort of threat. And that is where you're wrong. You see, for some reason these seatbelt buckles manage to harness the energy of the sun. And that means that if you park your car anywhere with sunlight, these little pieces of metal will warm up to roughly 1 billion degrees Celsius. And as soon as your skin makes contact with them, you'll be burnt into next week. This is such a prolific problem and no car is safe, not even the prestigious AU Falcon. The first time I got invited to one of Mark Zuckerberg's yacht parties, I decided to drive. And for some reason, I didn't even think of trying to find a shady spot to leave the AU Falcon for the day. So 3 days later, when it was time to head home, I went to put my seatbelt on and I was accidentally branded. But you see, hot seatbelt buckles aren't the only threat that come from the Australian summer heat.
Yeah, man, that one I can relate to. Living in Malaysia, it's 32 degrees Celsius every day. Can go up to like 34. That's probably 34, 35 is probably the highest it's going to get, man. So anytime I go back to the car any day of the year, it's like an oven, man. It's actually painful sometimes. Tell me if you've experienced this. Is there any other heat-related issues that you've experienced, not counting the volcanic temperature seatbelt?
Another thing that is arguably just as dangerous is hot bitumen. Just like metal seatbelt buckles, hot bitumen somehow manages to harness the energy of the sun. And if you don't have the appropriate footwear, you could be in grave danger. In the summer of 2021, I walked down a street on a 35-degree day, and I made the fatal mistake of doing so barefoot. Now this short 3-minute walk to go dump rubbish on the neighbour's front nature strip had massive repercussions. Every part of my foot that made contact with that red hot bitumen was burnt to a crisp and blistered up instantly. For 3 days I couldn't walk, and the only way I could get around was by levitation. After 3 days I was sick of it, and the only solution to this problem was to and drain out enough pus to fill 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Alright, that's enough anecdotal evidence. Out of the 7 mistakes I've made in my entire life, those 2 came with some of the worst consequences. But there's something that these 2 things have in common, and that is that they're both caused by the sun. The Australian sun during summertime is an absolute weapon. As I already mentioned, it has the ability to turn seatbelt buckles into cattle brands and bitumen into a makeshift frying pan. But apart from those 2 things, it also has the ability to turn you into a lobster, start bushfires that cover an entire state, and turn any car without aircon into a sauna on wheels.
Yeah, tell me more about the bushfires as well. Obviously, being from the UK, being outside and just seeing the news in Australia, obviously I know bushfires have always been a thing, but what's the worst ones that have ever occurred? Have you ever been near one? Have you ever been like evacuated or anything like that, or known anyone that is? It's something, obviously, being from the UK, we never have. Maybe there's like some forest fires and things here and there, but I can't imagine having to actually deal with it. It must be so frightening. Tell me more about that and the history of it in Australia.
Most of the important hazards that you need to watch out for during the Australian summer, I'll go through a few things that might just save your life. First up, we have the Motorised Ski. The Motorised Ski is up there with the AU Falcon as one of the most important and reliable vehicles that can handle Australia's unique conditions. With big, beefy off-road tyres, just like the AU Falcon, the Motorised Ski can go anywhere. And thanks to the wheelie bar on the back, once again, just like the AU Falcon, wherever you go, you'll get there in style. But by far the most important feature of the Motorised Ski is the Ski itself. This small, cooled storage compartment can be used for many different things. Some things you can store in your Motorised Ski include ice, Coke, Pepsi, a few cold drinks to keep you cool during the summer heat, and if you have any big trips planned, you can fill it up with petrol and make your own long-range fuel tank. But not only is it one of the most practical vehicles available for purchase in Australia, it's also one of the best vehicles for running your own business. Some businesses that you can run while using a Motorised Ski include herb salesman, tilt tray stress tester, and my personal favourite, organ transplant transportation. The Motorised Ski is one of the most sought after vehicles for the Australian summer. It's more than capable of surviving some of the harshest conditions that you can come across during the Australian summer. Things such as extreme heat, bushfires, floods, you name it. The Motorised Ski can be configured to suit your needs. But unfortunately, there is 3 problems. Those being the lack of air conditioning, 1 seater capacity, and a top speed of only 20 kilometers per hour. But luckily, once again, I've found a solution to this problem. And if you've been watching my videos for long enough, you'd already know that that solution is an AU Falcon with a boot full of ice. No, not that kind of ice. By filling the boot of your AU Falcon full of ice, you can still deliver organs, keep your drinks cold, and drive everywhere and anywhere in style. But now you have a top speed of 1 billion kilometers an hour, seating for 5, and most importantly, air conditioning. And the best part about all of this is that they're roughly the same price. Well, that's enough waffle about the AU Falcon, because believe it or not, there are some other things that you might need. Those being a hat, sunglasses, and sunscreen. Now obviously none of those things are anywhere near as important or interesting, but speaking of important and interesting, if you want to tan just like a bricklayer, buy yourself a t-shirt and get dripped out like me, link in description. Now to finish off this video, we're going to get into some things that you need to avoid at all costs during the Australian summer. First up, we have popular beaches. When it gets warm, people like to head down to the beach and cool off.
See, just like looking at that, I know this might not be a show, it might be. Have you ever been to a beach that's that busy? Is it even fun? I guess it could be like maybe, could be kind of like party atmosphere type thing, but it just seems too busy for me. I definitely prefer more secluded, quiet beaches. That one doesn't look so fun. What, have you been at a beach that's that busy before? Is it fun? Is it not?
The beaches. When it gets warm, people like to head down to the beach and cool off. But unfortunately, some of Australia's most avid beachgoers are old men in fluoro speedos. Now while these men usually don't pose any sort of threat, who on earth wants to see that? Next up, we have anywhere with trees and grass. Due to our politicians being idiots, it's highly likely that anywhere with trees and grass is going to end up in a bushfire inferno. So unless you have your Motorised Ski or AU Falcon on hand, stay clear. And finally, once again, the most important thing that you need to stay away from is the sun. Unless you slip, slop, slap and reapply every 5 minutes, wear 7 hats and 15 pairs of sunglasses while holding an umbrella, you're gonna get sunburnt and end up bright red. So unless you want to camouflage in the tomato section at Coles, stay away from the sunlight at all costs. So now that I've ruined your summer, it's time to end. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share if you'd like to hear more teachings from the prophet of Yorak Hunt.
Yeah, go follow him. I'll put the link to the video in the description. That was a great video, very funny. A Motorised Ski, like, I thought that was a joke when I first seen the photograph there, but is that a thing? Have you ever actually seen one of them? I mean, with the weather, man, look at my skin, how white I am. Like, I burn so easily. Like, obviously, go to Australia, I'm definitely going to be like those lobster-bodied people. But yeah, that's the importance of sunscreen. So yeah, tell me about somewhere in Australia, in your opinion, in your experience. Definitely want to learn more. And yeah, recommend more videos about Australia. I'll check them out soon. Thanks.